Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Mental Health in Tech podcast. This week, it's going to be a little different than the other ones, and it's very intentional, and I'll explain why in a second. But I'm going to start by just quickly saying what we're trying to do here and a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to give some additional context around our guests and stuff like that. So the Mental Health in Tech podcast exists because we, myself and other Schalk, have recognized that couple of things. One thing, there's quite a stigma still attached to mental illness, and we're trying to destigmatize that. One of the best ways to do that is to talk about it, and to talk about it openly. And I think, and the second thing is, the more people we speak to, the more we realize how prevailing this is in the world, but also in the tech industry. And so by speaking about it and being okay with talking about it, we hope that more people will come forth and say, hey, me too, kind of thing. And by doing that, we see that this is not a weird thing that only happens to some weirdos somewhere in the world. It's like very common, and we all need to deal with this in some way, shape, or form. And, let's talk about it. Let's find some ways to share these things. So that is kind of why this thing exists. Me, myself, I've been living with mental illness since, I don't know, I'd like put a pin on 15 years, but I guess it was probably earlier than that. Combination of like generalized anxiety disorder, depression, just a crippling fear of death, which I think all of us have to some extent, but I definitely have that much worse. Kind of think it's linked to my dad having a heart attack when I was very young and me seeing him in the hospital, and yeah, long story there. But, and so, yeah, I've been living with that. I've had substance abuse to try and deal with a lot of these things. So, I've had a journey and a half to where I am today. And one of the people that I listen to quite frequently is this dude that some people might know called Adam Savage. He was on this little known show called Mythbusters. Maybe you've heard of it. I don't know. And he has also been struggling with a lot of these things, including the substance abuse and all that kind of stuff. And he's just a super dude, and he talks about it quite a lot. And on one of these shows, they were talking about ADHD specifically. And he was like, there's this podcast I listen to called ADHD Big Brother. I was like, well, I'm going to have to check that out. And I listened to it, and I was like, man, this dude makes this thing like this shitty thing to live with sound shitty, but in a cool, fun way. And I've been listening to his show for a long time, and I'm really enjoying it. And I really like his perspective on a lot of these things. And so I was like, we always talk with other people in tech on the show, which is cool. That's kind of why we started it. But I think we can try something different and talk to somebody that's just have a lot of experience in this world, also having lived with this, but also run a community and talk to other people who live with this. And I'm sure there's an overlap between all of that and between tech and between what we're trying to do. And I think there's just a great story to tell here. So that is kind of why I invited Russ, and Russ was like, yeah, man, let's do this. And here we are. The only other thing that I want to introduce is, before I go on too long, is since our very first episode, our very first guest introduced a super cool concept, which is we start off by being a little vulnerable and saying where we are at in terms of our mental space right now, today, in this moment. And we each share that individually after having introduced ourselves. And this is just a way of like giving voice to our emotions, and also sort of for one another on this podcast to kind of know where the other person is, and maybe that triggers a conversation, or maybe it just makes you understand what the other people's mental state is, and you can tailor your conversation questions based around that. So to conclude my whole preamble, I will say that I'm in a pretty good space. I'm very, very glad tomorrow's Thursday, aka payday, because holy shit, that's been rough. And so I'm glad that is going to, there's some light at the end of that tunnel. That's going to make me take a big gasp once the money is in my account, because that is the way the world still is. If you don't have money, things are really hard. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like from a mental health perspective, I think things are pretty good. I've been going through the last couple of days this thing where I'm constantly second guessing myself because I'm in a rather new role at a startup. And so I have this lovely friend called imposter syndrome that's joined me the last couple of days and been saying like, hey, do you think you're still going to work here in like a month? Because I think you suck and you're not doing a very good job at what you're doing. And I'm like, shut up, dude. Come on, man. And he's like, no, but really, have you thought about it? I'm like, so I've been dealing with that somewhat. And it's not helping, but I'm trying to make peace with it. And I'm trying to like just roll with it and say, like, quiet down. I don't need this. You're not making anything better. So yeah, but I think other than that, things are pretty good. Life is not, could be much, much worse. The world is gone berserk, but we'll leave that there. And with that, I think I'm going to hand over to other Schalk to do his intro, and then he can hand it over to our guest, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, something I just learned is Adam Savage kind of has a history with mental health and apparently talks about it quite a bit. So I'm definitely going to follow up on that a bit. Also, Schalk, given that I also just want to mention this because you've been at Mozilla for a very long time, so I found myself at more often than not at the place where I'm starting at a new company, I guess, than you have over the last decade. And just maybe one thing worth mentioning is that generally we underestimate like how expensive proper onboarding is. Like just in terms of man hours and effort and whatever, getting someone to reach a specific point of institutionalized knowledge. So generally, I don't know, like I don't know what it's like, but I guess some of it might also be that there's a lot of stuff that's institutionally just kind of like common sense in the organization that you don't necessarily like realize immediately, and that's just part of I think as someone who's been there more often than I should, take it for what it is. It's more often than not, it's a them problem instead of a you problem. More often than not, companies don't do their due diligence in terms of standardizing and formalizing institutional knowledge. And then someone new comes in and it's like nothing makes sense. But anyway, yeah. So I guess kind of, I think last time we spoke, I was also kind of in a place of ambivalence. I think last time we spoke, I also forgot to take my meds, and it was the exact same situation where, oh, now it's too late. If I take my meds now, I'm like, cool, see you guys tomorrow morning with no sleep. But so now I'm just like riding it out, then taking it tomorrow morning. So kind of that bit of weird sensations and stuff from like forgetting to take my meds. Also worth saying that if you're listening to this, it might only be a month apart from the previous one. And the previous one I said, okay, I'm going to start following up, going back to regular therapy and whatever. And I just want to state for the record that it's not that I failed to deliver. It's that this is literally 3 days after we recorded the other one. So don't be like, oh man, a month has gone by and this guy hasn't done anything. So I'm still committed to that. It's just like been like 3 days. If you're listening to this, we're recording this like immediately after the other one. I don't know, like, good place, bit of uncertainty just in terms of the year, and as you mentioned, Schalk, like finances, and man, living is expensive, and it's hard just like being functional, and then it's like, okay, not only do you need to be functional, but oh yeah, you need to provide for an entire family, and so it's tough. But I guess you take it as it comes. So if anything, I think I would just summarize where I'm at the moment. Probably meh. That's probably how I would summarize it. Like, I don't really know. But yeah, on that amazing note, I'm happy to hand over to Russ. Russ,
oh
please.
Wow.
Yeah, like now it's all on you. Like it's all on you. Like you're the last hope for this podcast. So there you go.
I will see your meth and I will raise you I don't know.
So just for context, so I have no idea who Russ is. I think so Schalk Venter gave a bit of an overview, and that's the extent of what I know. So at this point, whoever's listening to this, I know exactly as much about Russ as you guys do. So yeah, I'm keen for you to kind of give me and the listeners a bit more context in terms of what it is exactly that you do and where Big Brother is. It Big Brother ADHD?
Nope. Guess again. Keep trying. No, it's ADHD Big Brother.
Oh man, I was so close. Yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to be able to give you the context that you want.
There's a joke. There's a joke in there about like putting people in a house with ADHD and just like putting them under like 24/7 like cameras or something.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm not going to exert myself to make that joke. So, but yeah, let's proceed. Russ, tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
By the way, this is probably my favorite thing is hanging out with people that have no idea who I am and that I have little to no. I don't know much about you guys as well, but this is so much funner to me. I don't know. I just thrive in that environment of like, oh yeah, let's learn about each other. You know, I just learned about some crippling anxiety from Schalk. I didn't know about that. And you know, the interesting thing is when you were saying that, I was like, oh man, that fear of death, that's interesting because I come from a depression side, right? And mine is sort of like in the darkest of times. And we're open season here for dark talk, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So mine is not a crippling fear of death. It would be more of like the crippling. I don't have in me to do it. So I hope like somebody robs this bank or hope somebody robs this store, and then I'll just jump in front of the bullet or something. You know, it's like that kind of a thing. So you're like, oh man, that's not a good way to live.
I think mine is my go-to one is usually I don't know if any of you guys have watched Donnie Darko.
No,
a long time ago.
Oh man, I bring it up all the time and no one knows about it. But but in the movie, effectively, he's sleeping at night and like there's more to it. But like in very simple like explanation is he's sleeping at night and just like an engine randomly falls off a passenger plane and just like crashes through his bedroom, through his bed, and that's how he dies. And I'm like, man, that sounds like the dream. Not right now, but like that's my I think everyone has a go-to where they're just like, can I just like sleep forever?
My heart goes out to that because that's kind of what brings me into the fold of like what I'm doing. I'm not a therapist, you know, but I know that my heart just breaks for that. We shouldn't have to live like that. That's not fair. So just to give you guys some, I don't know if this is context. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I was diagnosed with ADHD at age 40, somewhere around 40, right as I was getting a divorce. And it's that whole standard thing where you basically then go and research everything and, you know, figure out, oh God, this explains everything. And now not only am I glad that I have an answer for a bunch of stuff, I'm also depressed because God, what a waste of my life, not of, you know, all these things that could have been better. I dropped out of college after 1 year because I went from the imposed structure of my family, like bring home good grades or you're grounded or do this. I had all this beautiful structure for me. And then you go to college and you're like, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. Okay. Video games and alcohol and fun, you know, and then I realized, I'm getting A's in all the acting stuff, but I'm slowly failing at everything else. I guess I should go to LA and be an actor. I guess that's my calling. And so that was what I did. And I ended up spending, I'm just going to ramble my biography, I guess. I don't know.
Go
You
for
guys
it.
just stop me when we're like, and we got enough. We got enough of you, dude. I moved to LA. I was an actor for a good decade or decade and a half. I did a lot of comedy, sketch comedy, really successful in commercials. I was a very good office dork. That was like something I could do very well. And so it was a good time creatively, and a good time financially, and a good time. And it's where I met my wife. And so things were good. And then, I don't know, man, like things just slowly fade. And it was one of those things that everybody, the beauty of this community is that we all identify with the same BS, that we go, oh, I could stare at my garage for like an hour and slowly dip into madness because I can't figure out how to get started cleaning it. And it's such an easy, how hard is it to clean a garage? You take a thing out and you put a thing back, and yet I can't do it. I'm paralyzed. I'm overwhelmed by choice. And so I'm like, I'm a loser. I'm a legitimate piece of garbage. And then I start looking, I don't know. So slow decline. And then you realize you have ADHD. And I've always, I guess how I became into ADHD Big Brother is that I've always had an open heart for people that are struggling. That there's, and when, you know how we all get into these crazy endeavors. We're like, this is the thing I'm doing now. This is everything that I am. And this is my soul. I wrote a potty training book to try to help people not overwhelm themselves with potty training. And I don't give a crap about potty training. I was just so mad about how biased the books were and that they were so big. I'm like, nobody needs a 250-page book on how to poop in a toilet. And so then, so I read all the books, and then I wrote the book that I wanted. And it was so tiny and beautiful, and it's a kid's book, and it's a flip over. It was creatively wonderful. That's what I do. And so I kind of understood my purpose in the sense that everything that I've ever done, the overarching theme has been, even the shitty jobs, the thing that I liked out of it was when I was helping, when I was serving somebody else and helping them through a struggle or something, that's when I was the happiest. And even I was a bellman at a hotel. I would take bags to I liked talking to strangers and helping them with their heavy bags. The rest of the job sucked. But so I'm like, okay, that's an indicator, I think, of something. I don't know what yet, but that's an indicator. And then so as I learned more about ADHD, and as I during the pandemic, I was just helping people. I was doing videos on Facebook and offering suggestions and these tools on moving forward. And they were these tools that worked for me. And they come to find out they're ADHD specific. They really are. They work for everybody, but they're super ADHD specific. And that kind of is how ADHD Big Brother sort of came to be. And I was like, I hate social media, even though I still have an Instagram account, but that's on the chopping block. But I was like, how am I going to get it out there that I can help people? And I was like, I can podcast. I don't want to YouTube because I don't want to deal with having to edit video, but podcast, how awesome is this, right? We get to hang out and talk. Who cares what I look like at the time? Who cares anything? And I just get to share. I love that. And so then that's how ADHD Big Brother came to be. And that's where I can give people free help. And then there's a paid community, which is where my heart is in that community. And then I'll help people one-on-one. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I still have another job. It's sort of like the idea is I'll grow this, and then at that point I'll hopefully be able to full-time it. That's it. I mean, that's me up to point today and how I'm feeling today, because that was, I believe, the requirement on this show is divulge. I go up and down throughout a day. This morning, I went on a walk. I'm dealing with ruminating thoughts. I struggle with that. More often than not, they're negative. So being cool with myself is that's my mantra. But I'm always dancing on the edge of a depressive episode. I can feel it coming. I can see, one more shitty thought and I'm down, So I am, where I'm at right now is, I'm not meh. I'd say I'm a little bit better than meh. So I'm feeling.
In this world, meh is like. In this world, meh is up there. Like meh is like, that's in the high tiers. Yeah.
I am constantly seeking joy. So I'm always on the radar for what will make me feel good. And I'm using music for that right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
that's me, guys.
That's really great stuff. Like I don't know if you're familiar with what's it called? I think it's a mental illness happy hour by Paul Gilmartin.
No.
So that's he also has like a background in comedy and acting and so forth, and that at a specific time in my life, and I think that was specifically also a time where before podcasts were really like a big thing, and like that was kind of the only one that I could find. I think he's been doing it for a very long time now. And man, like you kind of mentioned about kind of this Big Brother thing. And like, I have to say also as someone, and, like, and he might not even have intended it for it to be that way. Like he might just be like, I just want a space to make jokes and ramble about like mental illness and talk to people. And I think at a specific point in my life, that was such a lifeline for me. Like, just like if a new episode dropped, I'd just be like, man, like, just, I don't know how to describe it, but I think the thing that gets me is the alienation and the loneliness. And I think we spoke about this a bit last time as well, as like, so obviously, so in South Africa and so forth, like there's a big kind of generational divide as well between our parents who grew up in a specific political kind of structure and us and so forth. And so like whenever I look at kind of all my peers as well, regardless of neurotypical or any of those things, I definitely see that to some degree everyone around my age kind of had at some point to go on some type of like there's this narrative of trying to figure out like who you are and how to make sense of the world, just because I think a lot of the stuff our parents believed and a lot of the stuff they grew up with kind of were exposed as like just bankrupt, like ethically and just like politically. And and I think like myself as well, like that whole mess, and then also trying to figure out like I also have all these weird other things, about like obsessing about like that my face is not symmetrical or whatever, like, so it's you're laughing, but that's legit. That's probably I'm 1,000% with you, because I think my one eye is lower than the other on my face, and I'm like, do I need to lean like this when I talk? No, sure. No, 100%. I actually so I did a talk at a big tech conference was it this year? No, last year. And that was kind of the like about mental illness and so forth in the tech community, and that's like the big thing that I spoke about is that, because I think that exemplifies it so much for me, like, you know, because I've had other obsessions before and whatever, and you know, like some of them are related to, as Schalk said, you know, obsessions with death, or you know, things around guilt, or things that have kind of like a spiritual dimension, like anxieties around that and whatever. But like, I think this thing about my face not being symmetrical is such a good example of just like how batshit insane it gets. And also the whole thing about like, at that point, people would be like, no, there's nothing wrong with your face. And to a certain degree, I logically understood that, but it's just like this feeling of, but what if there is, you know? It's so, and I think that's why it's such a good example to me, because it's like almost this thing that no one else can relate to. Whereas, you know, if you talk about death or whatever, other people are like, yeah, but like that is just like, it's so, I almost sometimes feel ashamed to talk about like how much I obsessed about the symmetry of my face for a specific point in my life. And, you know, to the point of like, I didn't want to live anymore because, you know, because I don't know, like there's something wrong with me or whatever. So, geez, now I can't even remember where I was getting at with this. Oh, so what I wanted to say is like, you know, while going through all of that, like, you know, it's very alienating dealing with that. But then you have this podcast or whatever where someone else is also, because I think one thing that I appreciate about like his podcast is it's very honest and open. Like I almost want to say, what would be the word? Perversely so, you know, like it's almost like, yo, man, this is getting a bit too intense, you know. But I appreciate that realness, especially in a time where I was trying to grapple with the insanity of like all these things and no one else being able to relate. So, I just wanted to mention that because, you know, like there is a lot of downstream like people that benefit from this, even the stuff that you do, even if you don't intentionally set out to do it. I can at least attest that there has been one podcast like that has really been a massive positive in my life. Yeah.
I find that it's very interesting when I think that's the benefit of doing a show, and then people start to reach out to you because you like you'll say something and be like, I've been carrying that inside quietly, and the shame of it and the depression of it, and now somebody just came out with it, and you're like, oh, I'm not alone. Like that eliminating the loneliness. And I almost find that more so with depression, because depression is such a sad, lonely, I hate myself and I'm the only one that and no matter what anybody tells me, I hate myself. And then to be able to not laugh, is a tricky thing to talk about, but it's like to say, I feel that way and let's share in some gallows humor about it, you know, because it's rough as we're going through it. Because I don't know, like my heart breaks for that stuff, right? When we feel like there's stuff that, like you talk about the symmetry of your face, like everybody has this body shaming feeling inside in some way, and they're silently suffering. And so to come out with it and be like, I don't think my face is the right shape, or I think what's going on, if you put a piece of paper there, this is two different humans or something. You're like, wait a minute, do you guys see my lips? My lips look like, if I go sideways, I look like an eagle, like these things point. And you're like, oh, yeah, we're all fucking messed up. We all think our faces are stupid and we're dumb and literally nobody bats an eye at our face, right? When we walk down the street, nobody's going, oh my God, did you see the lack of symmetry on that dude? Oh, what an idiot. Nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
But we're doing it.
No, but that's what makes it so hard to talk about these things, because I think there's a part of you, I don't want to hog this too much with the face stuff, but like
no, we got to dig in. We got to get into it.
No, but also like, it's like, when do you ever get an opportunity to talk about this? You know, it's like, so, but like, I think the thing is, there's a part of you that recognizes that. And that's like, this is insane, man. Like no one cares about whether your face is symmetrical, but it's like, it's you can't help feel that, and that makes it worse. Is like, recognizing something rationally, but still. I don't know, like I often equated it to like bungee jumping, like it's no matter how logically you can reason that you're not going to die, you have this like emotional response as if it's real. And like I always tell people, like your first instinct would be like, dude, there's nothing wrong with your face. Like that's like telling someone who's about to bungee jump, like, why are you acting this way, dude? You're not going to die. What the hell? What is going on? You're not going to die. It's like, I know that, and I don't know what's going on, and I know this is crazy, and I don't know how to stop doing it. But yeah, like it's interesting that you mentioned like, people reach out. So like I'll share this, and then I'll let Schalk do a bit of talking. But so how all of this started for me, I think Schalk and I have kind of like been like traveling like very parallel journeys in terms of this type of thing. And then I think at some point, like he actually interviewed me for a podcast that he was doing more related to the tech world. And I think he started talking about a lot of that. And out of that came like, hey, like there's really something here. Let's maybe like focus on that and build something around that, like the mental health aspect. And so how it started for me is I used to do a lot of technical talks at conferences and whatever. And then I talk a bit about myself. I talk about like kind of, I don't have a formal background in tech, and I actually used to be an artist. My background's in visual arts, and and then I'd share also like I'm like kind of I struggle with mental health, and I'm on medication and whatever. And so many people would either during the talk ask me questions about that, or come talk to me afterwards, where I kind of just realized that maybe I should kind of be more intentional about this and do something specifically around that, because so many people resonate. So many people who don't come and speak to me afterwards about anything in the talk, but they just want to chat to someone in the world of tech who at the very least is open about kind of their mental challenges. Because, also I think, each industry and field has its own thing, but I think there are unique challenges to being open about it in the world of tech. Specifically a space that's very kind of logical and like almost like engineering focused. And so
can I ask you a question about tech, because it's not my world at all? Is it an isolating job? You're like on your own. I picture tech as I'm a guy in front of a computer on my own all day. Or is that different? Is it more collaborative? Is it more like?
Geez, I can't actually speak about that because I only have my own little slice of what I'm doing. And that being said as well, a big part of that is actually I'm very much in like tertiary education and stuff as well, and also because I'm doing consulting work. Honestly, 99% of the time I spend talking about code. I actually, where I'm at now in my career, I actually spend very little time actually writing code, more time talking about code, figuring things out, looking at code, reviewing code. And but yeah, I don't know, like for what it's worth, it's way less isolating than kind of when I used to paint and when I was an artist. Like that got me. Yeah, because you're kind of like just on your own, you're doing your own thing. At the very least, now I need to I'm building something for someone. This code needs to go somewhere. And at the very least, I need to have discussions with, like, I think that was very refreshing to me when I actually did a career change, whereas previously I would just like wake up in the morning, make some art, go to bed or whatever, wake up the next morning, make some, and then you're like, oh, this is crap. Oh, what am I thinking? This is so stupid. People are gonna laugh at this, and you're just making yourself mad. And and then also funny. So no, I can't really speak to that. I don't know if Schalk can maybe add to that a bit.
Yeah, I think for me, I would definitely say that it can be. Because I worked at a company called Mozilla that makes the Firefox browser. That's kind of what they're most known for. And I worked there for a very long time, like almost 12 years. And for all of that time, I was remote. And, there's nobody else in South Africa that works at Mozilla. So like Mozilla HQ is my house. And then in my house, it's the little corner at my desk. That is Mozilla HQ, South Africa. And I mean, so, we had these like all hands, and those were, even though an aspect of it I really didn't like because I could never take my wife with me. It's too expensive. I couldn't take the kids with. And then we'd go to Disney World and I'd be like, oh my God, I feel like a total ass because I'm going to Disney World and my kids sit at home. But it was a lifeline for me because it was a week or so where I got to interact with my colleagues in real life, not just over a Zoom video or whatever the case may be. So I think for me, it did get isolating. And I think as you two were talking, I think that might be where the whole open source thing really helped me, because there I could find a community where even though there wasn't in real life meetups and stuff like that, I still had this interaction where I would put a piece of code somewhere and somebody else would review it and they would give me comments and there would be an interaction. Even though it's over the internet, completely isolated from one another, there's still this back and forth. Whereas if I was just doing my job, it would be extremely isolating. It would almost be the classic, like what people think when they think about a hacker. It's like a dude with a hoodie sitting in the basement, just like hacking away. And every now and again, they like come up for air and then they disappear again. It would have been almost that. And for somebody that deals with mental health, illness, like that's not what you need at all. That is a 100% way that you're going to start doing a Google search because you feel a cramp somewhere in your leg. And then before you know it, you have convinced yourself that you've got bone cancer and it's only a matter of time. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you're too scared to go to the doctor because you don't want this confirmed, because then how are you going to deal with this goddamn reality that you have to live with now? And then that stuff starts spiraling out. What you were talking about, Russ, the spiraling thoughts that just goes out of control. Wow. Mm-hmm. Until I discovered like MBSR, like mindfulness-based stress reduction and meditation and all that kind of stuff. That destroyed me. I mean, I would get up some days already anxious, and then my thoughts would go to that feeling in my body, and I wouldn't identify it for what it is, even though I've experienced this a bazillion times. I know what a panic attack is. I know what it feels like when it starts. I know where this is going. I know probably where it's going to play out. But when it starts, all of that goes out the window, and you're just like, nope, this is different this time. This time it's a heart attack. This is it. I'm going to freaking have a heart attack. I'm going to open a hospital. They're going to saw open my chest. I'm going to wake up with pipes everywhere in me. My kids are going to be traumatized for the rest of it. You're going there. And then those thoughts just spiral until you're lying on the bed, like just holding onto the mattress, thinking like, I'm not going to make it. And people are standing around you saying, like, you're going to be, like with the face thing, like people are standing around you saying, you're going to be fine. You're okay. And you're like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm dying right here.
I know the truth. Yeah.
I really appreciate that you said, this time is different, because that's exactly what I wanted to say. Like, so also, I have a long history of that thing as well. Like, you guys thought it was just a face. Like, no, I have stories.
There's more.
The face is like literally just the tip of the iceberg. But that's the thing, like, as well, is like you, like, I resonated so much with that little line of saying, no, but this time is different. Like, oh man, like that's it. Like, if there's anything that ties all these things together, it's the fact, ironically, that you think each time this time is different.
Yeah, like that conviction, right?
Yeah, it's like that. It's like, the face thing. Yeah, that was just weirdness, and all this other stuff. Yeah, like that was just a medication fix that and whatever. But this time it's for real. Like those were just false alarms, but it's happening for real right now. And every time I go through a depressive episode as well, like it's like, the others, you just buckle down and just ride out the wave, and eventually you emerge on the other side. But this time it's different. This is going to be the rest of my life. It's never going to get better. And it's going to be different. This one is never going to clear up. It's not an episode. It's forever now.
You're like, no, I am a piece of crap. Like, this is legitimate. Now we've put our finger on it. I'm a hopeless loser.
I still don't know what to do about that, because I still get it every single time. I don't know how. And then every time, specifically with episodes, when I come out of it, I'm like, yeah, I did the whole thing again where I thought like, no, this time it's just going to be forever and it's never going to stop. And I still don't know. Like it's sure as day it happened. Like tomorrow I go through a depressive episode again, and I convince myself that this time is different. Like it's not gonna cease. I don't know if anyone ever finds an answer to how to not do that. Like I'm all ears.
Where you're like, oh, you know what? Drink more water, and that fixes everything. That's
Bubble
always
boss.
my favorite advice for those things. Get better sleep, and it'll fix everything. All of it. I'm for me, for my money, it's the closest thing I've had to surviving these things is that like I don't know if this is the best solution for across the board, but it kind of works for me. But that I kind of DIY stuff too. Like, have you guys heard of acceptance and commitment therapy? Like that?
Oh yes,
yeah. Where you put your shitty thought.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan. Yeah.
So that helps me with the crappy thinking, to know that it's not about the fight to stop the thinking. It's the thinking is there, and it's over here now. So my life is this way, and the shitty thinking is over there. That helps me. And then sometimes I lean into it, and I'm like, oh, you're sad. You don't want to do this thing. Well, you're doing it anyway. Oh, I get to punish myself. I'm going to do something that's good for me because I hate myself. It's dysfunctional, but I do it sometimes.
I'm a massive, I specifically at one point I searched out for therapists specifically who are practicing ACT. So yeah, it's really great. So I never really resonated that well with like traditional cognitive like behavioral therapy, because like there's almost a mechanicalness to it that, like it feels like at some point, like you can just reason yourself out of it. But like for one thing I appreciated about acceptance and commitment therapy is like there's a bigger goal here, and the bigger goal is effectively like not trying to avoid these things.
Like they are a part of you.
Sitting and sticking with it. Yeah.
I like that.
Like, yeah. No, same
CBT
here. Like,
I thought was. I was gonna say CBT. I like it for the breakdown for getting to know my thinking, the distortions, like all or nothing thinking or perfectionism and those things. I liked it for the getting to know myself part. But I think you're right. It's a reasoning exercise. It's not necessarily a doing thing.
And I think I don't know, like I'm just way too, what would be the word? Like I'm just way too committed to proving to myself that no, these things are for real, that I will find a way. I will find a way. I'll come up with some rationale. Like I'm not going to think myself out of that problem. Like I'm going to find some loophole. I think it's like I'm
going to talk myself into this.
Yeah, like I'm going to. Yeah, like I like yeah. So no, I think that's the thing as well. And then you'd get stuck in that, and it's like you try and reason yourself out of it, but then in the process of trying to reason yourself out of it, like you kind of come up with new things. So you're like, yeah, my face is skew. So, what if no one likes me because of that? And it's like, wait, do people like me? Like, and I was like, just opened up a completely new obsession. So yeah, so
it's not just your face, man.
Yeah, like if your face was fine, people would still not like you. But what I appreciated about acceptance and commitment therapy, it's like, whether it's true or not is irrelevant. Like the problem isn't whether your face is, if it's not your face, it's going to be something else. So the solution isn't to reason yourself out of it, but the solution is to be like, it doesn't matter. if my face is skewed, then that's fine. People have lived with worse things. Let's figure something out. Let's accept that. Let's So, but it's such a tricky line because I can definitely see how that can turn into like fatalism, where you're just like, no, like there's no point in doing anything. But yeah. All right. So somehow I ended up hogging the conversation again. So, Schalk Venter, please say something and let's get us out of this mess.
Get to the bottom of your face. We need to get to the bottom of your
Schalk Venter, we need the intervention here. Please, dude, do something.
That's why Schalk Venter is blurry, because of his lack of symmetry in his face. But we'll never know because his face is blurry on his camera.
It's just one big blob.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Russ said in the beginning, I'm in the witness protection program, so that's why. You don't know everything. Like you said, there's more.
You don't even know if he's real. Like,
no.
For all we know, it's like just some AI tool that I plugged. And I'll be like, what would be a cool name for this fake made up person in the call? Maybe Schalk.
I'm going to use my own name. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but that's no, funny. I'm so Schalk, I'm curious, like. And so we talk quite a lot about, kind of your own stuff. And, but I think like, obviously because of the nature of something like this podcast, we never really get down to actually dissecting like how it plays out and whatever, we generally talk about like broad strokes and so forth. So I'm curious for you, like what are the kind of the more finer details in terms of how these things actually play out, and what the actual challenges are in terms of just seeing it through, unless you've already mastered that and you're just like if like I just surf it out, man, cowabunga, so I'm curious.
I guess you were asking me. No, I don't have an answer. I mean, I think for me, like, two things that I've picked up so you all were talking about like CBT, and then also the other one, which I have not heard of before. There's familiarity around the concept, but I haven't heard it put into those terms. But I think two of the things that I really resonated with MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, which, I mean, that is entirely based upon mindfulness, right? It comes from John Kabat-Zinn and the research he did around meditation and all that kind of stuff. I think the two things that came out that really resonated with me there is, and this is not easy, like I cannot do this yet, but this is what you need to try and get to, is to be able to sit with the feelings, not judge them, just let them be, let them come and go. Like the whole idea of clouds. If you were lying on your back in a field and you were looking up the clouds going by, each cloud that passes is one of these intrusive thoughts that's trying to tell you something negative about yourself, your situation. And you're supposed to look at it, see it, acknowledge it, but not. I think one of the things that the doctor told me is, if it's like a train, you're not going to get on the train. You're going to let it pass. You're going to look at it. You're going to see what it is. You're going to see it for what it is, but you're just letting it pass. If it stops and it's like, you want to get on, you're like, nope, I'm good. And it just pulls away out of the station and keeps on going. I think that was the one thing for me, which is, it makes a big difference. Those moments where you can actually pull that off, it does make a difference. But it is not easy. I think those are one of the practical tools for me. The other thing that was really interesting, and it's something that I still absolutely suck at, and I have my entire life, is avoiding confrontation. I have always avoided confrontation at all odds. Like I would, if somebody's like, I don't know, I can't think of a good example now, but anything that I can see this is going to lead to some kind of uncomfortable situation where there's going to be I run the other way as fast as I possibly can. And what I learned is, in actual fact, you're doing a lot more damage than good by doing that. Because more often than not, if you stand in the moment and you just talk through whatever it is that's causing this conflict, there's probably a better world after, a better for both people after. And if it doesn't resolve itself, it's also okay to agree to disagree. That's also fine. People can coexist if they agree to disagree. And I think this kind of talks into the workplace. And maybe this is not just tech, but I think maybe this happens in tech quite a bit, because you tend to find people that have very strong opinions about certain things, and they're almost unwavering about them. And if you are going to always stand back and just go the other way, then you're going to hate your job in the end of the day, because it's going to feel like you're just pandering to somebody else's thoughts, beliefs, whatever they have. And you're going to lose your voice and who you are in this thing. And I think sometimes standing your ground, maybe that seems a little too confrontational, but, standing your ground and saying, you know what, I actually disagree with what you're saying. And this is why, and this is how I feel about it. And this is my experience. Because people always say people can't argue with your experience. They can maybe argue with your opinion, that it can disagree with your opinion, but they can't argue against how you feel and how you experience a situation. So I'm trying to do that. It's bloody hard when you've spent like the better part of 45, 46 years of your life running the other way, to stand still now. It's when you're like in the jungle and you see the lion and the dude in the car drives away and you're like, what the hell what am I gonna do? It's like that, it's like in that moment this panic hits you, and now you're completely out of the moment again, pulled into the panic that you're feeling, and you're associating that and the fear, and you can't make sentences, you're rambling. Sometimes you're not, but it sounds like to you like you are. Like you're talking, and at the same time you're thinking, I'm making absolutely no sense right now. You can't even really understand the words that's coming out of your mouth. To you in your head, it sounds like you're just going, yeah, blah, 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 like that one movie. It's like you're speaking, but there's no words coming out. So I'm trying to do that. I think for me, and that's something I wanted to get out of this conversation with you, Russ, is like these little practical nuggets that you found for yourself, but that you've also found by interacting with this wider community of people that some of these people in your community surely are in tech, because it's everywhere, but also, a couple, some of them are. Yeah, exactly. So, sure. But there's overlap between this, right? And I think between having spoken to all of these, like such a large community of people, and you yourself living with this, you've surely encountered things that people have said, you know what works for me? Blah. And you've been like, and you tried it, and you're like, hey, you know what? That works for me too. So I think for me, the two practical things that I find works for me is just being there in the moment with the shitty feelings, the shitty thoughts, and trying to be okay with them, letting the train pass, not getting on it.
Yes.
And the other thing is trying to be in a position where you're like, okay, this is going to possibly lead to a confrontation, but I'm not going to run away this time. I'm going to be here for it, and I'm going to be respectful, but I'm going to say what I feel.
That's great. And what it makes me think of, and I don't know if this is your experience, but this was my historical experience for confrontations, things like that, is people with our kind of skull spaghetti, often we are kind of emotionally dysregulated. Things are very dramatic. So it's not a simple argument about a thing. It's a you're going to hate my guts as a human being because I'm going to tell you one minor critical feedback. We are now mortal enemies for life because we take things that you hear rejection sensitive dysphoria or whatever these things are. For me, it's like I get butt hurt really big. But it's having the grace with myself to go, I'm going to take some time with this because I know that initially I feel like you hate my guts as a person in your core. So I know that that's not real, but it's true in my head. So I got to take some time away. And then that's when I would do that CBT stuff. That's when I would be like, this is a false thought. Here are some alternatives. I'm going to choose to believe this is true. And then I'm going to act like you don't hate me. or something. I wanted to speak to that. One of these thoughts, like one of the nuggets that I've gotten out of all of this, which I feel is very important, and I wanted to share it, which is this overarching being cool with ourselves, even when we're not cool with ourselves, but to be cool with the fact that we're not cool. It's we live in a time, I think the culture, the landscape is typically a self-love landscape where we need to love ourselves and self-care and self-love. And I think it's a beautiful thought and it's a beautiful idea. Somebody like me that cannot do that, even though I know I can, even though if I looked in the mirror and I said, I love you, the mirror reflection would be like, you're so full of shit. No, you don't. You idiot. I'm like, no, but I do. No, but I do. You're like, no. Okay, whatever. So I'm like, okay, if I'm just going to feel worse by trying to lie to myself about something that I don't believe at my core, how about I just be cool with myself? How about I treat myself like a roommate that, he's annoying, but he pays the rent. I can live with this guy. He's okay. There's a lot of shit he does wrong, but he's paying the rent. All right, I can do with this. So on my journey to getting to a place where, God, that would be great if I were to be able to look at myself in the mirror and be like, I love you, buddy. You're all right. I would love that. But for right now, I'm gonna be cool with myself. And this speaks to like the mindfulness-based stress reduction, the idea of accepting, the acceptance in general for mindfulness of like, this is where I'm at. This is my present moment. And I'm going to accept that I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm going to accept I don't like it, but it is the truth of the moment right now. That I really subscribed to that as an effort, not as like, yeah, and I've got it all figured out, but it is as an effort in understanding where I'm at, right? Understanding my emotions at the time and not feeling like I have to fight for this ideal that people post on Instagram, the magnificence that's out there, the perfection that is unattainable. I'm never going to have a symmetrical face. It's this thing on my face. I don't know if that's going away. My eyes are always, this one's going to be lower than this one always. And that's what I'm going to be okay with. I don't know. That's been a super, super helpful thing. I'll tell you that one of the biggest lessons I've got, which is, I think that's the benefit of doing a thing like this, like what we're doing, like these podcasts. And then people reach out and go, I am that. I am that too. Thank you for saying that. Is that we all have these unique ways of doing things. And even though at the core, like with ADHD, there is a process for managing life with ADHD. It is a cut and dry process, but everybody has their own creative, unique way of achieving that. Like in my head, it's like, okay, you externalize everything and I'll be cool with yourself and make things easy. And what is your way of doing that? That is one of the beautiful things that I think has been a gift to me in doing this, and that I've learned from all the people that I've communicated with. It's beautiful. That's my ramble. I don't know where we were going with this.
No, that's brilliant. I love that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I dig it. I think one of the things where you ended there with the easy stuff, make it easy. I think one of the things, and this might come from Atomic Habits, where you say like, make the right things easy and the wrong things hard. So if you want to start jogging, like put your shoes at the front door. I remember he told the story about one of his clients. This is definitely from Atomic Habits, where the dude is like, okay, so there's two things. One thing is language is incredibly powerful and we need to use language effectively. So first thing you do is you don't say, I'm going to go to the gym every day. We're in the beginning of a year. A lot of people are trying this thing out for size and seeing how it goes. Some people might have already given up, seeing me past the 19th, which is apparently when most people are like, fuck this, I'm done. But instead of saying, I'm going to go to the gym every day, you have to say, I am the type of person who goes to the gym every day. Just that change in language changes how your brain processes it. The other thing this dude did is for the first week, he got in his car on his way to work. The plan was that he will go first thing, go to gym, then go to work. So for the first week, he drove, parked in the parking lot, sat in his car for 5 minutes, went to work. Didn't even get out of the car. Then after the first week, he walked into the lobby of the gym, walked out, got in his car, went to work. Because through this process, you are the person who goes to gym every day. The fact that you're not picking up weights, that's irrelevant. You went to the gym today. You were in the parking lot right there. You saw there, it said Virgin Atlantic, whatever the hell, Virgin Gym. It said it right there. Not sponsored. You said it right there. You went to the gym.
Isn't Virgin Atlantic like the planes?
I was like, what?
You're thinking about Virgin
They got a gym now?
That shows
They've got their hand in everything.
That shows you that I don't go to the gym. I do ride a bike every day that goes nowhere, but that's how I get exercise.
Hilarious.
But that's the thing.
Because Schalk just started. I'm not the type of person that goes to the gym.
You ever been to the Virgin Atlantic or the Southwest gym or the United Airlines gym?
I used to go quite frequently to the what are the ones that land in Atlanta? Delta Gym. I used to go to the Delta Gym.
Delta Gym.
So to wrap that up, essentially, language is incredibly powerful. So the words we use really make a difference. That is what you say, but also how you talk to yourself. And then the other thing is make the right things easy and make the wrong things hard. And one of the ways is just that simple. Like, I went to the gym today. I did. I didn't get out the car, but I went to the gym today.
Yeah. I want to take that a step further too, and talk about the importance of knowing that we're all the same in that. There's a shame that's attached to feeling like we have to do things in a remedial way. There's a lot of this sense that I'm a grown adult. I shouldn't need to do it. I should be able to just do this thing. Because that's the culture that I know that I grew up in, is that you suck it up, you do it. You just do it. And that's not a reality. So when we talk about these things, I'm fully subscribed to that. Easiest point of entry, break things down into the smallest component. And even in depressive episodes, it's like, what's the thing that kickstarts you and nudges you like down the mountain, like you're going towards your goal, right? It's, I don't know what the thing is. I don't want to say like, just don't feel shame. It's knowing that we're not alone in that effort, right? To make things super, super easy. It's literally, it's all that is us using the way that our skull spaghetti works, the way that our neurons zippy zappies flicker and flacker. That's just how we do the thing. And when I speak to this, most people, when they say just do the thing, they're connecting all those dots and doing that stuff internally. We're doing it externally. We're setting out our shoes. We're just doing the same thing, but we're doing it our way so that we can do the same thing that the normies of the world are doing. It's just how we do it. I don't know. I feel really strongly about trying to eradicate the shame around us doing things a little bit differently,
Yeah, no, that's great. And I really, and I think this is the part. So there's obviously a lot of parallels between something like acceptance and commitment therapy, and you spoke about Schalk needling as well. And I think there are some. I don't want to go as far as saying universal truths, but I think there are some things that are just inherently helpful in terms of managing these type of things. And like you kind of like different people arrive at these solutions in different ways, and the one thing I appreciate about acceptance and commitment therapy is the C part, which is the commitment part, is that there's always like some type of commitment associated with acceptance. So, without a commitment, like plain acceptance without a commitment is just, once again, it's nihilism or fatalism. It's like, nothing really matters. But saying like, cool, I accept this thing, and like I'm committing myself to this type of action, regardless of whether this thing is true or not. So, in other words, maybe my face is skew, maybe my face is not skew. That shouldn't change the commitment that I make. That is, I'm gonna try and just be like someone that's nice to interact with, regardless of how someone thinks about my face. So I think that interplay between the commitment and the, is like, I really appreciate that. I also want to say I really resonate with this idea that, like I also struggle with self-love and all of that stuff. And it's almost like that's okay as well. Like, it's like sometimes I think, once again, sometimes I hate myself, and that's okay. That's fine. Like, I don't need to be a certain way or feel a certain way. The only thing that really matters is what do I actually do. How do I act? Like, I can criticize myself, and I can hold myself accountable for the way I act and what I do with those feelings. But I don't know. Like, let myself just feel whatever I want to feel. So I really resonate with that, and and it's that thing of like, you're like, oh, you need to love yourself, and then it's like, I love you, man. And it's like, no, that's not true. That's not true. And it's like, no, you're fucking it up. You're fucking it up. You're supposed to love yourself. You are horrible at this. You are awful. Like, it's so easy. Why can't you just love yourself? You piece of shit. Like, it's like that.
Yeah.
But and I think the thing is, for me, like, different people resonate with different things, and I think I just don't trust myself enough. Like, I think there's like a little voice in my head that's just too deceptive, so all that stuff about putting your running shoes at the door and driving to I'm gonna find some way out of that. I'm gonna find some way to convince myself, like, I just don't trust myself enough to.
Yeah, but that's an opportunity, though, right? So then each time that happens, that's your opportunity to be curious about yourself and go, oh, okay, so this doesn't work. What might work? Or what was the obstacle? What might be the way out? And that's where we all get to know ourselves. I think that's the beauty of that stuff.
Yes. And I think for me, and I remember when I was in support groups and stuff, this is always like such a contentious topic. And people used to feel very strongly about this. Is like, do you kind of own the mental illness? Do you say that I have depression? Like, does it make it worse by like, or even if it's like substance abuse or whatever? Do you, like, is it a thing of mentally, do you tell yourself, hey, I'm not an alcoholic or whatever? Or do you, well, obviously,
like, I'm experiencing alcoholism.
No, but you guys know what I'm getting at. Some people would say you're setting yourself up to fail by owning that and making, and I have
case by case in my head.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, like for me, it's the opposite. For me, there's a level of like liberty, like in terms of being like, this is the reality, and that's fine, and that's okay, and let's figure out, given that that's the reality, where do we go from here? So yeah, it's tough. It's such our brains are just so infinitely complex that I'm always cautious of kind of always say that, absolute statements are absolutely problematic, so
yeah.
So yeah, I am, but I just wanted to say I really resonate with that, and I think for a very long time I spent too much time in this kind of space of neurosis of trying to fix the problem by obsessing more. And obsessing more
like trying to think our way out of it.
Yeah, I just need to think more positive thoughts, but the problem is, the more you try and force it, the worse. If you just let it go, and that's the irony.
Our brains have so much data. I think that fight is anytime we think we're going to get into a fight with our brain and convince ourselves of something, our brain is like, are you kidding me? It's like a lawyer, like the most highest paid lawyer that has all your history, every single thing that ever happened to you as a child. Like, oh, you think you're good enough? Oh, let's go back. Oh, remember in the third grade, you failed that test. Oh, look at this. And it'll give you all the data. That's, I think, that the separation of thought and who we are is a big deal, because our brain will spit out shit all day long. And we're like, okay, I am not my thoughts. That's just a collection of data that's coming up at an inopportune time because that's how I'm feeling. Like, I feel shitty. Well, let me give you all your shitty thoughts.
Yeah, I also really like this idea, and I think we spoke about it at some point in the podcast before, and there's kind of like a scientific basis for it as well, is this idea of your brain as almost a community of entities and things, as opposed to like a single thing with a single goal. It's like competing things, and with different motivations, and and I really kind of like, I think that's how I kind of make sense of that thing of like, sometimes I do say things and think things, and like kind of the separation of mind and brain. I think is kind of like the mindfulness way of thinking about it. But yeah, I think there's also like something there as well, which I had to learn, which was kind of like a lot, like it kind of opened a lot of things up for me when I kind of started realizing that me is more than one thing, whether that's a separation between my thoughts and my mind and all of that. That was really helpful for me. Yeah.
That's super interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, all that goop in our brain. It's like all that brain jello. It's just a whole bunch of goop zipping and zapping and doing things. And like, all right, what's your job again? Just to keep me alive. Let's just keep me alive. That's all you're. And it's like, I can keep you alive. Don't ever ask any women out because they're going to reject you and hate you. Oh, that's how I survive. Oh, I don't like that answer. Thanks, brain.
So I think it's one of those moments where we need to wrap it up, even though we can just keep going forever, but nobody wants to listen to a 10-hour podcast. So how to wrap it up? No idea. So all I can say is, like, I really enjoyed this conversation.
It was super fun.
I'm super glad that you were open to doing this, Russ, and I'm glad I reached out. I think it was just a wonderful conversation. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from this. I think for me, the big takeaway is that talk to more people about this stuff, because what we've learned here is that this uniqueness, there's a shared experience, a shared reality, but how we deal with this is unique almost to each and every person. But there's some things that one person does that you say, well, I haven't tried that. Let me give that a shot. And maybe that's the thing that was missing in your life. And the more we talk about it and the more we share this between a wider and ever increasing community, the more of these things will surface and the more people might find just the thing that they never knew they needed. So I think for me, that is the big takeaway for me. So with that, I'm out, and I'm going to hand it over to you two.
I did.
What if he just leaves? He just like literally shuts his camera off and he leaves. He's like, and I'm good. What happens?
You guys have fun.
Here's my takeaway. You guys go to hell. Boom, and he's out.
I know, but it's only fair because I did the same thing to him last time. Where, because like it's no, but like I always say this, and if this is like not the first episode that you're listening to, you're going to be like, Schalk's going to go on about this other thing now again. But it's like I always say this is like it's with these type of conversations, there's no logical endpoint. And because it's just like there's so many things that get opened up, and I said this during my talk at the conference as well, and I said like there's no logical end where it makes sense to tie all of this up with an easy answer and cool, all right, there we go, everyone like end of conversation. And it's effectively just when the timer runs out. And it's like, cool, we have to stop talking about this now. Because it's such a big, complex topic. And, there's so little discussion about it that like everything, you just like grasp at it and you're like, cool, let's unpack this, let's unpack that. So it just comes with the territory. But like last time, I'm like, cool, all right, Schalk Nedeling, like you try and make sense of this mess, like get us some nice conclusion. But yeah, like I think this is great for me. And I think it's really nice talking to someone that isn't. I think this is the first person we've spoken to that isn't in the world of tech, and I think a lot of this takes very specific dimensions in the world of tech. Whether it's like like the concentration required to code, and sometimes writing bad code and then having to like undo all that work and start again. There's all these dimensions, but I really like there's a lot of insight for me personally in terms of like just seeing how a lot of this plays out just as humans, regardless whether you're a carpenter or a plumber or whatever. Like I think to some degree we're all applying ourselves to something and we're trying to get our brain to just work with us and do the thing, and it just keeps on going in random directions. And so I think and once again, as you mentioned, it's that thing is what's wrong with me. So I think just like hearing from other people that are kind of in a space where they are on some type of journey to just being at peace with that, with their own like humanity, and their own humanness. And I think like that has been really something that kind of resonated with me a lot, like in this specific call. But yeah, I think maybe a good place to end off is maybe with some recommendations in terms of reading material and stuff. Because Schalk, you mentioned a couple of things, and I'm curious to know what are some like books related to that might be worth checking out. So we spoke about acceptance commitment therapy. The general one that's kind of seen as the entry to it is the happiness trap.
Russ Harris.
So yeah, another Russ. I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
we're out there.
Yeah, you can trust the Russ. But yeah, that came out way better than I was like thinking it was going to be. That was pretty good. But yeah, so it's a happiness trap. Good book, good introduction to acceptance and commitment therapy. Schalk, I don't know if you maybe have any recommendations in terms of kind of the mindfulness stuff.
Yep. Full Catastrophe Living by John Kabat-Zinn.
Oh, that's amazing. That's an amazing title.
Gotta read it. Read it.
Cool. Now Russ, like, give us the grand finale.
Okay. And then an orchestra starts to play behind me. And now I sing to everyone.
No. I was thinking more in terms of what's the book that's going to change everyone's lives.
Well, that's a tough one because let me switch it to be not about a book. It's about it's a
podcast.
No, people will find the podcast. But the community aspect of this thing. I have a joke going on right now where like we all will read the book and then no one will do the work. That is the way that we are. We will read the happiness trap and we'll go, this is genius. Oh my God, I'm going to try all these things. And we won't do any of them.
Guilty as charged.
Because we forget what we read. Like the second you read an exercise and go, I'm going to do that tomorrow. And then you read the next chapter, you've already forgotten about the other one. That's just no big deal. That's just who we are. I'm really in service of the doing. And in terms of community, that is what helps our type, I don't know, our kind of brain people is how do we do the thing that we say we want to do, that we know how to do, but that we're not doing. And I'm finding that in community, and I know we have one, but I mean, community is your wife, community is your friends, community is whoever you can have that helps to hold you accountable when we can't hold ourselves accountable, because we are so able to give up on ourselves and to quit on ourselves, but it's so hard to give up on our friend or to give up on our spouse or give up on a community that we've made a promise to, because we're people pleasers. Okay. So let's lean into our thing that we that's our deal. And so the idea of a community is you get a group of people together that are reading The Happiness Trap, and then you do a book club about it. And then you guys all do the work together, right? In our forum, Schalk, you know that I've got a forum, right? So we're going through the mindfulness workbook on addiction, and we're going through Understand Your Brain. What is it called? It's by that. He's a huge ADHD guy, Ari Tuckman. Okay, so this, and here's the exact reason. You'd be like, what book do you recommend? Okay, I'd recommend this. I have owned this book for probably 2 years. Never did one exercise. So it just happened to be in the forum. We were talking about it, and we're like, you guys want to go through it and do it together? Now we're doing the work. And then we're picking it apart too. We're like, this exercise sucks, or this exercise is great. But it's in the community that we are finding ways to do the thing that we say we're going to do. And I don't mean that in a condescending bad way, because I wouldn't be doing these things amazing. If it weren't for the community I built. I'm like, I wouldn't be doing it either. So I would recommend the Happiness Trap, and I would recommend doing the work as you're doing it with your community. Like in tech, do you guys have like groups that meet up and that do things? And you go, hey, who wants to do this thing because half of us are depressed or half of us have anxiety disorder. Anybody want to work through a workbook on meditations and things like that, right? It just takes one person that's a little bit juiced up about it. Because I tell you, like, when I go around and I talk about this stuff, I'm generally like, I'm a geek for this stuff. So I'm like, you guys want to try this? All right, let's go. So people will clean it up. I've been wanting to do that. I would love to join that thing. Someone's got to grab on and lead it, you know? That's how I would wrap it up. That's my big finale is it doesn't matter the book.
You've outdone yourself. But it's like, that is, I'm scared by how good that advice actually is, because realizing that's really good advice actually means that, yeah, it's probably something worth investigating. And that, yeah, so no, like that's really great. And I actually think, Schalk, maybe that's something we can actually chat about and look into. But it's like the first time we did this podcast, like a lot of people messaged and said like, oh, that like it's really great, and I was like, oh, damn it, now we have to actually continue doing it. And it's kind of like that. It's like, yeah, like it's such a good idea actually, and it's actually maybe something that we can actually look at doing. Mm-hmm. But oh man, like, I don't want to.
More on my plate.
Yeah, no, but it's a great suggestion. It's really, cool. Yeah. I kind of resonate with it a lot. Yeah, and I think that's maybe as good as a point to end. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for having me on it. This is really fun. I really appreciate getting to know you guys a little bit better. It's nice.
Yeah, thanks, Russ. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.